Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the few in attendance and the thousands listening around the world, let's get ready to gamble. My name is Tony Cavallo. As always, I'm joined by Matthew Dangles, D'Angelo Antonio, Schaefer the Sharp, Drew Schaefer Crookston, and we are the West Coast Gamblers, the only gambling show that makes you money, a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. And when I say in the intro that we're the only gambling show that makes you money, I mean it, because this show went 15-6 in week 2 of the NFL season. 15-6. Each one of these gamblers you could have tied a bow to and won money with them. We were 2-1 on Thursday Night Football. We were 3-0 on Sunday Night Football. Al Michaels is calling us for the leans. 15-6 in week 2. We are a profitable show, the only gambling show that makes you money. And while we might not be making these gambles today, today's more of a recap. Today's more of an entertainment show. You better be coming back to listen on Thursday because we are going back to the well. Each of these hosts are going to be breaking down week 3 of the NFL slate and giving you bets that are going to be winners. Am I right, boys, or am I right?
Guys, awesome job. Hey, collectively, a little golf clap for the team. Good job, boys.
15-6.
Hard to argue with the numbers, fellas. Hard to argue with the numbers and the success. We did an excellent job this week. Lots of green on my show notes as I'm going down my bet slip, highlighting everything we hit. Makes us look good, and our listeners get to eat too, right? So everybody wins.
I made so much money I could finally get a haircut, Dangles.
Yeah, and Tony, I'm here to tell you, it looks great. It really does.
I was disappointed to see that Aaron didn't also get a haircut with you when we saw him on Monday Night Football this past week. He still seems to be rocking the Hawaii Shailene Woodley and Miles Teller hair. Summer Aaron don't care, and apparently the Packers don't care what I think either. But you guys didn't coordinate your haircuts. You didn't link up and decide to get your fades at the same place at the same time.
But
let me tell you. We're both feeling pretty good Tuesday morning.
Yeah, but Dangs, hey, I think the hair. Let's give Rogers a little shout out with that cover. My son Colt, who's less than 3 months old, is now 7-3 in the circuit contest.
Attaboy.
It's his picks. People think I'm behind it. I might give him some advice, but I'm the dad. I'm gonna let my son do what he does. So he's less than 3 months old. He's 7-3, hitting 70% in circa. Colt, man, he's killing it.
Not without a little bit of a sweat, though, there from the Detroit Lions at the very end, pushing it. I was enjoying watching Pat McAfee sweating his own spread on the Manning cast. He clearly took the Lions at 11.5, and they were threatening that with that potential last touchdown there. But the Lions did exactly what you'd expect them to do, and fortunately for bettors, the spread hit.
Now, as you can see, Drew is not in his normal recording location. He is actually in the heart of all sports gambling, Las Vegas. And Drew, you gave us a little bit of insight on this, but I want you to open up the world to the gamblers out there everywhere. Some of those states that have legalized gambling, and still the dream is to go to Vegas to place some bets in the sports gambling world. Drew, tell us why you think it's not as all golden as it used to be out there.
Guys, I hate to say it, but I believe, drumroll please, the dream is dead.
Wow.
It's so bizarre.
Listen,
I'm at an undisclosed location, and it rhymes with Match Regis, okay? And I am in the desert. I have mountains behind me. Got a call and said, hey, I'll be there, but it's so weird, boys. I go down the sports book, and like I said in our text thread, there's nothing like just throwing cold, hard cash to that ticket counter and getting that ticket. Ticket cost, blank to win blank. I love that feeling, but I'll admit, the variety here is scarce, and these numbers, they aren't good. You can get better numbers, shop online. I will say I was lucky enough to be profitable tonight by taking the over as the king of the coast, my best total, and a TJ Hawkinson prop. I did ride Aaron Rodgers over, which did miss, but it's just different feel, guys. I'm telling you what, being in Michigan, having the online betting completely legalized, and it's just incredible. Again, the excitement's still there, but the actual, I guess, the Sorry.
When you can do it from
Do you
your
think
couch,
it-
it's
Yeah,
the
well,
glamour's a
that's
little
kind
bit
of what
gone.
I wanted to ask. Because do you think
Exactly.
do you think it's the and do you think the fact that do you think maybe the fact that you're not finding as good numbers in Vegas as you used to, and obviously there's no point of comparison from earlier, but I wonder if it has something to do with like it's a tax on the experience. They're probably trying to make money off of people who don't know any better, because they're in Vegas, and why the hell not? I'm just going to throw some money down at the sports book. But I also wonder if they, Vegas knows about. I mean, and a lot of these sports books, I guess, have online ventures too. But I wonder if they're sort of thinking we're going to put a tax on the actual experience of betting in person at the sports book in Vegas. I don't know. I don't know if that's the feeling you get.
Me and Dangles are just jealous because we're out here just waiting.
In California, where we
waiting
can't
with
bet.
bated breath.
Yeah.
Because again, this show went 15-6 in week 2 on Sunday. 15-6, and Dangles and I, well, we made money, but legally we aren't allowed to do that in the state that we live in, and it's just a little bit annoying. Just a tiny, teensy, tiny little bit annoying. Again, our Thursday show is going to be where we'll be making all of our picks. The Thursday night lean, the Sunday night lock, the King of the Coast, which, by the way, Drew, congratulations. You are this week's winner in King of the Coast. You went 4-1 in your King of the Coast
close.
picks, accumulated 7 points. Dangles, you were second place. You got 6 points. Back up that Brinks truck. You hit that
Yeah,
bet.
baby.
And you were the only one out of this crew to hit the Brinks truck bet this week. You also started 1-4 and built your way back up, my man. Hell of a ride. You're on the winning
down
track.
before. We got to get back up. You got to get back up when you fall down.
I had a winning record as well. Only accumulated 5 points to the game that we're playing, but we killed it in Thursday night. Me and Dangle still undefeated on Thursday night. All of us killed the Sunday night bets. We're having fun here, boys. I'm very excited. Very excited.
And quietly, guys, I think you guys might be our resident prop specialists. You guys are finding props on the primetime games and exposing them. So I'm happy to see that. And while I was trying to find the word convenience, Tony, while my microphone came unplugged, as we are in a live show at an undisclosed location, I was going to say this. Yes, variety, Dangles, and convenience. When you have an online shop and you have multiple books, it's just different. But I will say, cash in those tickets tonight. There's nothing like getting that cash back, baby. It's the best.
Mm-hmm.
So today's show, we are going to have the Dr. Dangles segment coming up where me and Drew, we have some ailments that only Dr. Dangles can heal. We do have a lovely guest coming on the show back from our MFK divisional previews. Mr. Fernando Ramirez is going to be here to talk about that Chargers-Cowboys game. That was just, from the second quarter on, absolute chaos when it came to the referees and interesting calls. Mike McCarthy, I'm just happy he's not in Green Bay anymore.
Holy shit.
And then we're going to end the show with everybody's favorite segment. That is the Gravestones game, where each of us kill a team saying they won't make the playoffs this season. But yeah, we already talked to Fernando. We're doing the show a little bit out of order today. So I do want to say we didn't get to talk about McCarthy's just idiotic play calls near the end there. Drew, you weren't with us when we interviewed Fernando, but what's your take on how McCarthy almost really threw that game away, making his kicker take a 56-yarder when he had plenty of time to advance the ball more?
Truly unbelievable, Tony. I mean, like, it wasn't even like the results. It was the fact that he had some kind of excuse, like the play clock went out and Kellen Moore was blocked by a camera guy. Like, what in God's name? And I forget who said it, maybe Ryan Clark on ESPN. If you watched Greg Zuerlein kick last week, you would damn well know 56-yard field goal is not in field goal range for him. Now, he made it, and he bailed McCarthy out.
Nailed it.
We know he's Greg the leg. We know he has the distance. But clearly, this guy isn't Justin Tucker right now, dudes. Like, what is he doing? So the fact that McCarthy got bailed out, and I reluctantly did take the Chargers at a good number in a contest, I was very upset with that. And I'll say, without hearing Fernando speak, which I'm very excited to, I got to say, guys, not to take anything away from the Cowboys, but that was kind of same old Chargers for me. I mean, turnovers in the red zone. It's like, how did they let that game slip away? I was a little alarmed that they could not close that game out. And I was quick to say the Chargers are a different team after week 1, but after week 2, my God, that had Anthony Lynn era written all over it, didn't it?
It really did. And I mean, big matchup coming up this week, Chargers and Chiefs. Both of these teams 1-1. We dive into it with Fernando about how this is a big-time Week 3 matchup coming in. Can't wait to see it. But Dangles, news just came in. Zach Wilson just threw another interception to your New England defense.
They got him a lot this past week, making my season-long over for J.C. Jackson on interceptions looking very good. He got halfway
Nice
there.
job, Dangs.
In that game on Sunday, 25-6 was that final. And look, again, I liked they brought a lot of pressure against him. The Dolphins brought a lot of pressure against Mac, and the Jets brought a lot of pressure against him as well. And he's showed poise, but I'm a little bit. It's not panic meter time yet. But I'm a little concerned about how reluctant, tentative they seem to move the ball down the field. Mac not taking a lot of shots down the field. Maybe it's because he doesn't feel like he has the guys, but I don't know here. One thing I did love, and I will say that made my heart so happy, was on that touchdown run by Damian Harris where Mac comes flying in from 20 yards down the field to push the pile over the end zone. That was exactly what you want to see out of your rookie quarterback. Belichick loves that kind of hustle. But yeah, no, tough game for Zach Wilson, and it doesn't get any easier next week when they fly west to go to Denver and take on a very formidable Denver Broncos defense. And Tony, you mentioned the refereeing, the play calls, and I know that I've been noticing on Twitter over the last couple of days and in other social media circles a lot of vitriol going towards the NFL for the way that referees are calling taunting this year. And they're a lot more picky about it. Keenan Allen got called for it in that Charger game on an early drive. There were a number of calls this weekend where I feel like I found myself going, really? Like,
I have a take on it.
It's already been the
wants to
no
hear.
fun league. I'm sure you do. It's already, we know this is the no fun league to begin with, but like, I don't know. It seems like we're getting a little bit excessive here.
In case you wondered, Drew has something to say on it, Dangles.
Yeah.
11 taunting calls the first 2 weeks of the season matches the season total for last year at 11. Guys, wake
That's
the fuck
bananas.
up, NFL.
That's
Stop
bananas.
it. Stop it. Listen, some of these calls are so insane, and Pete Carroll said it best. These guys are working their ass off, especially the defenders. They get like 10 chances to celebrate for how many reps they get per season. Mm-hmm. Let them just celebrate a little bit. It's one thing to mock an opponent, get in his face, but when you're reacting like with emotion, and you might direct it at the player you made a play on, keep the flags in the pocket, refs. Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop
We're
it.
talking about spiking footballs off of guys' helmets here. We're
No,
talking
you're
about
not
just a
braining
little
somebody.
A little jawing back and forth after a big gain or something like that. That's been going on for like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing?
Someone got it for spinning the ball on the ground. It wasn't even directed
What are we
towards anybody.
doing?
I mean, that's just a natural
terrible.
celebratory reaction. Even Bill Belichick, when he had that documentary crew follow him around when they're in the team meeting, he's yelling at his players on defense like, hey, so-and-so just made a tackle. I want all of you going to him and congratulating him. You should celebrate when you do good things on the football field because you're trying so hard to get there. If Belichick's for it, then I think the NFL should be for it, but that's just me. I will say, Dangles, I'm very happy and surprised that you are that direct with your criticisms of the New England offense. I thought it would be all hunky-dory with New England here because you're correct. Mac Jones is doing well. He's still making some rookie mistakes, but there are plays down the field that he is not going after.
Yeah.
But then again, Zach Wilson, Robert Saleh comes out and says we need Zach Wilson to accept being boring on the football field, and Mac Jones is absolutely okay being boring out there.
Sure.
Even on the trick play where they had, I think they gave it to James White, then James White throws it back to Mac Jones. He threw.
I think he threw it to Kendrick Bourne or something.
He threw the 10-yard out route on that. Granted, wide open first down, but if you look at the game tape, Nelson Aguilar is open in the end zone, and that trick play's run to get a big play out of it, not the easy 10-yard out route. So I'm interested to see when they don't get 4 interceptions on the opposing quarterback, if Mac Jones can keep the team in these games, because eventually he's going to have to take chances down the field.
Absolutely. They're not going to just be able to run. It's because it's been very formulaic as I'm watching it. It's a run. They do pass on first down a little bit, but they start off, it's run first down, run second down, and then a pass on third and short, and then it's kind of the same thing over and over again. So I'm hoping that they'll maybe open up the playbook as he gets a little bit more comfortable, but you're absolutely right. He is tentative to take these shots downfield, and they're not going to be able to do that all season long. They go up against the Saints next week, who obviously laid an egg against the Panthers this past weekend, but we've seen that they can put up a bunch of points when they need to.
See, I really wish. I mean, we're still getting.
I think
this show.
defense is going to make. I think our defense is going to make Jameis Winston look like a complete and total fool, and he's going to throw maybe 5 picks. If
We're
Zach Wilson
still,
threw 4.
We're in the COVID era now with this show where we're doing it on Zoom and we're all in our own separate places. Drew's off in Vegas, but we used to be in a studio. We used to be in, be able to touch each other, talk to each other. We also had a soundboard that we could use, and my God, do I miss that day because this is the week where we get to bring back RIP up in the heavens, Denny Green, and he gets to say they were who we thought they were, because the New Orleans Saints were who we thought they were. And there were some other teams that showed their true colors this week after surprising us in week 1. New Orleans stinks. And I don't know what happened in that 38-3 game
Sean
against
Payton
Green Bay.
even admitted that they stink.
They stink. Drew, what do you think about that New Orleans-Carolina game?
Listen, on this show, we're always trying to learn, put it in our memory bank, and adjust for future for the year to be more profitable, right?
Yeah.
Is it any coincidence? Jameis Winston, Ben Roethlisberger, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, and all those guys, what do those guys have in common? They're all, by definition, mid-tier quarterbacks, right? As underdogs, 1-0 covering the spread. As favorites, 0-1 covering the spread. I think the lesson here is simple. Fade those guys when they're favored and back them when they're underdogs, because I just cannot get over the difference in Tannehill and Cousins. I mean, guys, the worst pick I had in the contest by far. No, I'm not talking about Kirk Cousins. I'll talk about that later with Dr. Dangles. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Tony, your darling. That offense is abysmal. They might be the worst offense in the league, and it's not going to get better soon for them if they don't. I mean, Big Ben he looks done. He just looks done. I'm sorry. They can't move the ball.
I don't agree that he looks done. I do agree that offense is in trouble. That O-line gives them zero time to get anything going, and especially in the running game, Najee Harris barely found any ability to find holes in that, and I don't think it's Najee Harris's fault. Jonathan Abram, the Raiders' safety there, was just coming through and salmoning people all over the place. But there's players on that Pittsburgh team that are making moves. Juju has been on fire.
Hard Knocks reference?
Oh, yeah, it's a Hard Knocks reference. I bring it back here.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Juju has been on fire and playing really hard. Claypool and Deontay Johnson are aggressive, and I think Ben is making just enough plays to make it happen here. We see Aaron Rodgers missing throws on Monday night as well, but I think Big Ben can do enough. It's just that offensive line's killing it. What kills me, though, obviously TJ Watt coming out of that game was a big change in that game, but that defense, it had so much success against Buffalo because they were able to get pressure with only 4 rushers and everybody else backing off. But they like to disguise who's rushing out of that 4. It's not always the 4 down linemen. And then sometimes you're getting these DNs, these big, heavy guys now back in coverage. And the Raiders, if you watch that game back, were attacking anytime that happened. Whether it was a Melvin Ingram or a TJ Watt backing up into coverage, that is not their safety zone. And that's where the Raiders were making big chunk plays to like Foster Moreau, of all people, on a back route touchdown. That is off of a guy who should be rushing the ball and not in defense. So I'm a little bit worried that defensive scheme is getting figured out by teams, especially teams with good offenses. But you're right, Drew. Bad pick to take Pittsburgh -5.5.
Awful.
And,
it's like I don't learn from the fucking playoffs. I took him in the playoffs last year against the Browns. Not great. Can we talk about David Culley? This was featured on a rival podcast. You might have heard of it. Pardon my take. They don't really quite have the following we do yet, but we're hoping for those guys. But did you hear that David Culley for the Texans on 3rd and 17? They had a 15-yard penalty to make it 4th and 2, and they declined the penalty to punt. Sorry. They accepted the penalty to punt.
2-0 against the spread.
2-0.
Absolutely.
Houston Texans.
Absolutely.
Making me
now
money.
Led by,
But
now
good job,
led by
Tony.
Davis
Mills.
Davis
I will not
Mills.
be betting on. Do not be betting on Davis Mills
No more.
anymore.
Meanwhile,
Poor Tyrod Taylor. But hold on. I want to get to the
Ty
thing
God
we had this
Taylor.
segment about, okay? We were talking about teams that we are who we thought they were. I want to do an MFK of teams that still are surprising to me, because there's a handful of 2-0 teams like the Rams, those teams we expected to be 2-0. But there are 4 teams that are surprises here with an undefeated record 2 weeks into the season. So very quickly, I want to see who you guys think are for real of these 4 teams. I want to marry, fuck, kill these 4 surprise 2-0 teams. 2 of them are in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos and those Las Vegas Raiders. The other one is those Carolina Panthers, led by a very scary defense, and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is undefeated. And the last one is the team that Drew picked over and over again. It was his Brinks truck pick before the season to take the under on this team, the Arizona Cardinals, led by Kyler Murray, 2-0. So please, I'm going to go to Dr. Dangles first here. Marry, fuck, kill Carolina, Arizona, Denver, Las Vegas.
I think I'm going to marry the Arizona Cardinals. I love them
Wow.
now. They're just, I mean, Kyler Murray is playing out of his mind. The defense is very good there. Let me see. It came close, right? It came close this past week. Minnesota had to miss a field goal for them to win that game. It came down to the very end, sure. But I'm liking this Arizona team. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of their offense. And again, yeah, their defense is nuts. I'm going with Arizona. I'm fucking the Carolina Panthers. They are so much fun to watch, and their schedule is not that demanding down the road. Honestly, the toughest part of it is having to play the Buccaneers down the stretch, the end stretch of the season twice. The rest of it is fairly manageable with a couple of hurdles along the way. And guys, I think I'm going to kill the Raiders. I don't know. I cannot get behind John Gruden and Mike Mayock, and I just don't think that I don't think that whatever they're doing is sustainable there.
That offense, though, is firepower.
It's great right now, sure, yeah, absolutely. But eventually, they're gonna run into an issue, right? Like, this is a Steelers team that maybe isn't as good as people thought they were, and they did beat. The Ravens are very good, but they did beat this Ravens team that also just lost to Kansas City. So I don't know. I'm not.
Ravens beat Kansas City, but close enough.
Oh,
Schaefer the Sharp.
You're right. Yes, of course.
Where are you
I'm still
going
not
with this
sold on Las
MFK of
Vegas.
surprise teams here?
I'm gonna actually mirror Dangles in two of his picks. I'll just start. I know it's MFK, but I'm gonna start out. Who am I sleeping with in the biblical sense, making relations with? And it's absolutely going to be the Carolina Panthers. And how can you not? Tony, you're the one I believe said, like, I mean, this Darnold thing is interesting without Gase. And I think our boy Hitman had a tweet, was like, if Darnold keeps this up, which I'm not a believer yet, Hitman isn't either. But I mean, if he really keeps this up, Adam Gase literally should not be able to. He shouldn't coach Rocket football.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So, but I'm very intrigued by that defense. So I'm absolutely going to sleep with them. And I'm with Dangles here. I'm going to kill the Raiders because we've seen this before. We've seen them start hot. We've seen this offense be explosive. Teams figure it out, and I don't think Gruden has the brain capacity to adjust in midseason. I really don't. And so, I mean, listen, Carr's been awesome. I mean, you could argue he's a top 5 MVP candidate after week 2, but really, besides the deep ball of Ruggs and the monster that is Darren Waller, like, their running game doesn't really do anything for me. Their defense is shoddy. Their offensive line's got question marks. So we've seen this before, the Raiders. I am absolutely going to kill them. I'm actually not going to speak on my dreaded team, the Arizona Cardinals, because I'm very angry with them. So I'm just going to put them away. And again, I'm tying my lot, guys. I'm with them. I'm in it for the long haul. The Denver Broncos, man. Yeah. I think this is a playoff team. It's a 10-win team all day long. I'm very excited about my season win total. I don't think Teddy Covers is going to do anything crazy. But here's the thing about Denver. I really think they're in a position now. They're going to win games they're supposed to win. They're not going to beat themselves. I don't think you're going to see them, pull off any crazy blowouts or upsets. I think they're a very tough team to gamble on all year as a favorite. I think you'd take them as a dog all day, but I really think this is a 10-win team. I think they will be built as the season goes on with that home field advantage in Denver, the altitude, potentially some weather. I like the Denver team. So marry Denver, fuck the Carolina Panthers, and I will kill the Raiders.
Yeah, again, sorry, Mrs. Crookston, for the swearing, but let me give you the correct answer to this question, because I would love to marry Denver and the Raiders, but they're in a division with the Chargers and the Chiefs, and I think those are 4 really good teams. The Arizona Cardinals are also in a very, very good division, but those Carolina Panthers, I mean, you got Tampa Bay, but Atlanta and New Orleans are going to be doormats to the Carolina Panthers. I'm marrying this Carolina Panther team. I love that defense over there. Derek Brown is an amazing D tackle, just destroying the middle of the field. And they have J.C. Horn on the outside, Jeremy Chin as a safety. They have guys all over the place making plays on defense. And then on the offensive side, yeah, Christian McCaffrey helps when you have him healthy and running. The offensive line is good, but Sam Darnold and that litany of weapons is actually making progress under this Joe Brady offense. I love watching this whole team play, and I really think Carolina could beat up on Tampa Bay when they play each other, but I think Carolina is that 10-win team we're talking about. Carolina, to me, has been the most impressive team so far this season. Now, they haven't beaten anybody of note, really. I don't think New Orleans is very good, but just seeing them play and seeing the blue-chip players they have on the field, I'm excited to watch this team play against contenders, and we'll be seeing that in the next few weeks of the season. Carolina is the marry to take. I'm picking between Denver and the Raiders to fuck, and I got to go with the Raiders just because I believe in Derek Carr more than I believe in Teddy Bridgewater. I understand how much I hated the Raiders going into this season. I took the under on them as well. that offense is just clicking on in ways I didn't think was possible before. And the O-line is healthy, and the running backs, even without Josh Jacobs, they're doing what they need to do. And Derek Carr, he can't be beaten right now. He is throwing the ball as good as anybody out there. And they beat a Baltimore defense. Yes, that was an injured Baltimore defense, but still an always good defense. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, who shut out Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills the week before. I think Derek Carr can produce. I think Derek Carr is a winner. I'm fucking Derek Carr. The Cardinals is who I'm killing. I think Kyler Murray is an MVP candidate. But the rest of that team, I think they're just walking on a very narrow rope here. And one step to the left, one step to the right, and it's like a house of cards. It's all going to fall apart. They have no running game whatsoever. That defense can go from having 5 sacks against an injured Taylor Lewan to not pressuring the ball at all against Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was killing them when it came to throwing the ball. Dalvin Cook was gashing them 10 yards a pop, and this is a team that could not move the ball at all the week before. I'm a little bit worried unless Kyler Murray can pull a rabbit out of his ass every single game. I don't think Arizona can keep up.
And you don't think he can? I mean, he if there's anybody in this league
That's
who can
the thing.
do it, I feel like it's Kyler. You know, he's a guy that can will his team
But we saw
to a victory, and I don't think you can necessarily say that about any of these other quarterbacks that we are talking about right now. He is an X factor that gives his team
We've
that
seen
advantage.
Derek Carr go down 2 weeks in a row and then get right back up and keep playing. Teddy Bridgewater, big guy.
time-
Sam Darnold, big guy. Kyler Murray is not. He has not been hit yet. And we saw last year
Derek Carr
after
perpetually
16
injured.
games, after 16 games of constantly putting his body on the line there, eventually he gets a little bit slower, a little bit the stutter step isn't there, and that offense degrades. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Arizona can keep this up for a 17-game slate. That's why I am killing them. Drew, before we move on to Dr. Dangles, you got one more thing.
Tony, just like the Raiders, we've seen this with the Cardinals before. We've seen this before. They were 5-3 in their first 8 last year before finishing 3-5. And again, my handicap on them the whole season has been they are one injury away from Colt McCoy being their starting quarterback. And the way Kyler plays, I'm just not sure if it's sustainable. Now, he's awesome. Yes,
He's
bet him last
unbelievable.
year. I bet him last year at MVP about this time. And guess what? I bet him at 12-1. By the end of the year, he was about $1 billion to 1 because he wasn't on the field.
Yeah.
So I've seen this with the Cardinals before. And again, I didn't include them in my MFK for a reason because they have been impressed the first 2 weeks. But again, I still like my ticket for them to finish 4th in the NFC West. I really do.
Well, let's move on to some things, 'cause I'm going to be talking about the NFC West too. We've recapped the games a little bit. It's time to cure what ails you. It is time to go to the old doctor, everybody's new favorite segment, Dr. Dangles, coming up next.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming back to another session. I was a little worried after last week, and things got a little real and emotional and raw at times. I know there was some feelings felt and some things shared and some thoughts aired, and I'm glad that you both decided to come back, Tony Squares and Schaefer the Sharp, for another session with me, Dr. Dangles. Now, I want to begin this week with now, therapy's no laughing matter,
No.
by the way. And I want to begin this week with you, Schaefer the Sharp. We started with Tony Squares last week. And I'm curious because now we've moved on to something new. You know, whatever what you were dealing with last week, I hope you've worked your way through. But it seems you've got something new that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, Doctor. Well, first of all, I appreciate you let me go first because sometimes I don't feel like I'm heard, which I know is rare because I have a lot to say. But I have this thing, Doctor, where on my NFL betting card on Sundays, I have to bet purple, and it's not even for or against. I just see purple on the card and I have to bet them. I'm talking, of course, about the Minnesota Vikings. I take them in week 1, and they look like Whoopi Goldberg, and I bet against him in week 2, and they sound like Prince. And I guess I'm confused why I have this impulsive like reaction to the color purple, where I have to bet him. You know, I don't know if it's because if I'm in the Midwest now, and you know Minnesota's kind of close to me in like geographic location. But honestly, Doctor, when I bet on the Vikings or for the Vikings or against the Vikings, it just seems like a Viking horn's like going right in my butt.
Now, Drew, what would you say to that bet if you made it this week and it were sitting here with us in this room right now? What would you tell that bet?
I would say it's one thing to cover bet minus 3.5, but it's another thing to lose. Like if you can't even win the game outright, you have to lose but not cover, and I'm just sick of it. Like good teams win, great teams cover, and this team's not great. And all I wanted, hindsight's 2020, doctor, and I like to live life in the windshield, not the rearview mirror. But I can't keep away from the color purple. I can't keep away from it.
Well, let me prescribe something that might help you keep away from the color purple, and that is look at their schedule, you idiot. Oh my God, the rest of this season is unbearable for them. They have the Seahawks coming up next week, the Browns after that, they get the Lions, but later on in the docket, Panthers, Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers, Packers, Niners, Steelers, Bears. Do you want to play any of those teams? If you're the Minnesota Vikings with no offensive line, do you want to play any of those teams with Kirk freaking Cousins or a terrible defense and Mike Zimmer, who seems to have given up on his team? I don't think you want to look at any of those. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, but I think you should read their schedule. A good prescription of take a look at their schedule will prevent you from making bets on the Minnesota Vikings and anything purple going forward. Although I don't necessarily want it to drive you away from the Baltimore Ravens, because we could have a bleed over effect here. I just want you to make sure you compartmentalize that purple that you see on your betting card.
Tough love's what I need, doctor. Thank you for that. Never trust a coach. Never trust a coach that's face looks like he's been stung by 1,000 bees.
Now, Tony Squares, I understand you've also got something you'd like to talk about this week.
I don't know if I want to talk about it anymore, frankly, after that outburst. I'm a little nervous here. I thought this was a safe space. You kind of came at the throat of my partner here, Schaefer the Sharp.
I did. It's true.
No,
it's true.
Hey, I need to hear it, Tony, and you need to hear this too. Tell him, please. We've been working on this together. Tell him.
Well, I feel like, again, I'm coming here with a personal issue, and it's a little tough for me to open up about it. But I was fooling around this weekend. I wasn't exactly being safe. I'm a young guy. I like to have fun. And I got a case of the hook. I took the Rams minus 3.5, and they ended up winning by 3. And it really, it's getting me good right now. I'm watching it away the best I can, keeping everything clean and all that stuff. And I promise to be more careful in the future. But, Schaefer wanted me to come forward and tell you what happened and if there's anything I can do to fix it.
This isn't college anymore, Tony. This isn't college anymore. We can't fool around like this anymore. This isn't college.
Do you think this is a problem that could be solved potentially by betting earlier on these games where you maybe don't have to work with a hook and you're dealing with a full number instead?
Absolutely.
Later on in the week.
I can come into these situations more prepared. There are, there's things that stop this 99% of the time, and I could do it earlier in the week. But, I just having fun, having a few beers, and just decided to take the hook anyway.
Well, I think that's all the time we've got for today, unfortunately, gentlemen. Our time is up here. I know sounded like you were close to a breakthrough there, Tony Squares, and I hope that we can get to continue to flesh out this issue next time that we visit each other, and I hope you'll come back next week. I'm sorry things got a little raw and a little emotional again this week, but will you please join me again next week for one more session, maybe? Humor me once more?
Well, if we have even time next time, Doctor.
My time is very valuable. Some weeks you're going to get more time, some weeks you're going to get less time. I can't promise anything.
Still costs the same.
This is true, but good therapy takes
I love
time
the session, Doctor.
And costs money. And we'll be back in just a minute with everybody's favorite game. Week 2 of Gravestones is next.
Okay, joining us today, because if you watch this game on Sunday, there was a lot of questionable calls thrown on both sides by the referees against two high-powered teams that the first quarter was a firefight, and then the rest of the game, it was a lot of what's going on. And yet on the back end of the stick were our Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert did not get the win, so we had to bring in a guest right now to help us explain what happened and help us explain what this means for the Chargers going forward. This man had boots on the ground on Sunday, was at SoFi Stadium to watch the Chargers-Cowboys. He was on our show for the divisional preview, breaking down the AFC West back in the bank with our Marry Fuck Kill, and he is here today to help us explain what the hell happened to the Chargers. Welcome back to the show. The Sports Illustrated Chargers reporter, the Fan Nation favorite, our favorite, Mr. Fernando Ramirez. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me back on. That means I must have done something right last time, and that's why you guys decided to have me back on. So there you go. That's a little pat on the back for me right there.
That's right. Big pat on the back for you, Fernando. You were definitely a fan favorite of everybody after our last
Appreciate
interview.
it.
We appreciate you guys coming back and talking with us a little bit about a Chargers team and a game that kind of came up just a little bit short yesterday. And Tony, you brought up the questionable calls. Man, I was just rewatching this game before we hopped on here with you, Fernando, and just on that first drive, I talked a lot last week about how unforced errors cost the Patriots their game against the Miami Dolphins. And here on this first drive, I mean, we can question the call and whether it was a good one or not, but a pass interference call on a 4th and 1 from Keizer White, who couldn't really tell if he accidentally ran into Amari Cooper's route or if that was intentional, but just a bad kind of way to start the game off there, where you have a chance to stop a team, get the ball back, and maybe go down on them and score, and instead they're able to turn that penalty into a touchdown.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just it just felt like the Chargers needed, kind of like the same way with Washington last week. The Chargers defense kind of tried to get into momentum, try to kind of gain a little bit, try and get better, and it took them a little bit to get adjusted to the way Dallas was running the football, and they ran it so effectively, almost about 200 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it was Zeke or Tony Pollard. They were both running the ball efficiently. It seemed like the team struggled. They were missing Justin Jones, who was out with a calf injury. And you have Jerry Tillery, who's getting blown up into the second unit with the linebackers. I mean, Linval Joseph is Linval Joseph, but the thing is, he's the guy that is supposed to swallow up 2 blockers, and somebody else is supposed to come up free, and nobody was getting free yesterday. And it was a bad game all around for the Chargers defense. But at one point, I felt like they kind of did get set. They were fine. They were bend, don't break. They didn't allow any touchdowns in the second half.
Yeah.
It was just it's just bad luck by the Chargers. I mean, they were able to get that interception off of Dak. But other than that, I mean, there was a little bit of confusion at times because, man, you would see the Chargers the Cowboys were in third and 5, and the Chargers secondary was playing off. Yep. And you're kind of like, why are you playing off? Like, these guys are just going to do curl routes, and then Blake Jarwin would do a curl route, and the linebacker would be all far and wouldn't catch up to him, or it just seemed like there was a lot of confusion. So yeah, the Chargers defense struggled at times, but they honestly, I mean, to allow a high scoring offense like that, only scored 20 points. That's a good day's work for them. But at the same time, they should have limited the running ability a little bit more. If they could have, maybe Dak wouldn't have gotten so many yards, and maybe they couldn't have thrown as much against them. But yeah, no, the defense did struggle. There were a lot of questionable calls. I mean, I know you guys are going to point at that Jared Cook touchdown. We actually talked to Tony Corrente after the game, and he basically said that the thing that happened was that Jared Cook was coming into motion, and Mike Williams moved at the same simultaneously. Well, you can't have him and KJ Hill were not set. So when you have a player come into motion, the two guys already have to be set. But the thing is, it happened earlier in the game with the Cowboys, and they didn't call it on the Cowboys.
No, they rarely call it because Mike Williams was moving because he's doing the thing where he's, am I on the line or am I behind the line, sir?
And he even pointed at the referee, and he goes like that, and he moves back.
That's rarely called.
Yeah, it's rarely, but Tony Corrente's group does call it a lot.
Okay.
So they're the one, they called it. So last year they ref Chargers and Falcons. They called it twice on the Chargers last year, but they really weren't calling it in the game. And then you got the illegal man downfield, and you're kind of like, dude, when do you ever really call that play unless they're blatantly downfield?
Yeah.
The thing that happened was that Ode Abuji was in his yard. You have 1 yard ahead to be able to move. So he moves the guy, he slips and he falls forward. Well, he fell forward 2 yards, and that's why they brought out the flag and they called it. So it's just
gotta keep
a
your
typical
feet, man.
Chargers game. It was a typical Chargers game, and that's kind of why Brandon Staley was brought in, to eliminate all the dumb ways you can lose a game. But it's like he said, or it's like you notice they're still learning. He's still learning. He's learning how to be a head coach. So obviously if this continues, then okay, raise your eyebrow. But I think one game, I'm kind of like, okay, let's see what happens next, what the next move is, before you really can get on him about same old Chargers or whatever, because he is a new head coach.
When it comes to the next game is a big one. That's why we brought you in, because we wanted to sort of dedicate this segment to the Chargers and Chiefs coming up. The Chiefs are now coming off of a loss that the game that they probably should have had in Baltimore. The Chargers probably should have had this game against Dallas. Now it's a divisional matchup between these two guys who are both looking for answers, and neither one wants to start the season 1-2, especially in a division where the Raiders are already 2-0, the Broncos are already 2-0. Like, you got to get wins where you can here.
Weird division this year.
Yeah.
The two biggest question marks I had from this game, you're not going to have the same referees each week, obviously, but when it comes to the lines on both the offensive and the defensive side, we haven't talked about the O-line yet, but the D-line, like you said, was getting pushed all around by this Dallas front, and it was the right side of the Dallas front, too. Joey Bosa is getting blocked on run plays by Dalton
with
Schultz.
Zach Martin back. What a difference he made coming back. You saw that week to week. Zeke does nothing week one. And granted, you got two different kinds of defenses, but I don't know about you guys. I certainly saw the impact of Zach Martin being back on that offensive line, and just the push they were able to. You mentioned on the right side, he's their right guard. That's directly attributable to him.
I'm just wondering, is it I know Brandon Staley runs the same scheme he ran when he was in Los Angeles with the Rams, and obviously that front four is a lot different than the front four he has with the Chargers. And that scheme might not fit what the Chargers have currently because those D tackles and D ends are getting pushed off the line. Are you a little bit worried that guys like Bosa and other playmakers on the need to sort of step up, or are they going to be able to get run on by this Chiefs offense next week? Or do you think this was one time Dallas got the best of them and this defense is fine to play the run in the future?
I think it's too early to kind of know if it is, just because it worked last week against Washington. And Tyler Heineke had 11 for 12, but he was disrupted in a lot of those pass plays was him BSing, moving out of the way, and then able to find a guy and he was able to make the throw. But like last week, at times you weren't really concerned about the defense. You were concerned about the offense kind of getting jump started, and you're like, why aren't you guys scoring more points? Right now, I'm a little bit, if I was Brandon Staley, I'd be a little bit more nervous about why is my team only scored 37 points in 2 games? What is going on? Like, why are we not scoring the football? And that's that would be a little nerve-wracking if I was, excuse me, if I was Brandon Staley. That's what would have me a little bit nervous, just because you're looking around, you're like, okay, dude, like against Kansas City this weekend, you're not going to win 27 or 20 to 17.
No,
you're gonna have to go up there and score points. And I mean, I know everybody says, oh, Kansas City's defense is worse, but man, Honey Badger had 2 picks yesterday. The defense is still they're not what they used to be, but they're still going to be good. The Chargers really are going to need to be very disciplined this weekend, especially because you can't turn the ball over against Kansas City. It's funny. I think the Chargers have only punted twice in 2 games, yet all you're getting out of this is 37 points. So it's like you're settling for field goals, which, I mean, I guess Tristan Vizcaino needs the reps and everything, but man, you need to put up points. Justin Herbert right now, I think he's thrown for over 700 yards, but he's thrown 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, what's going on? And the thing is, I believe that only one of these interceptions was truly his fault, and it was the Trayvon Diggs one. I think that
was
one,
a hell of a play by
that was a hell of a
great
play by Trayvon Diggs,
but he threw it into coverage for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, he needed to put it was like, this is the way Brandon said, Keenan should have been able to box him out a little bit more. And yes, Justin should have thrown it maybe a couple of, I think he said millimeters ahead of him, and maybe Keenan comes up with the catch. But I mean, the Chargers are moving the ball up and down the field. They really are. It's just once again in the red zone, it's like their playbook just completely cuts in half, and you're kind of like, okay, dude, like, why aren't you guys scoring the football? And so, I mean, Brandon tried to put it as easy as, oh, it's just about running the football a little bit more in the red zone. I'm kind of like, yeah, but I mean, that's why you have your and that's why you have your quarterback. I mean, I don't know how much you're going to be able to run the football in the red zone. It's more about your quarterback and kind of trying to be a little bit more decisive with your routes. I mean, they had good play calls last week. I remember the one to Keenan Allen on that first drive. He goes back as a running back, and he does a halfback angle, and I was like, oh my God, that was a great play. What does that do? It sets him up at the 3-yard line. Boom, you run it in with Austin Eckler. Okay, that way, yes, it could work. You can get pushed, especially if you're running behind Rashawn Slater. But man, you have to get down to those areas, and once you get to the 20, it's like literally like you're freezing at certain points. So the Chargers need to do a lot better, especially because, like you said, Kansas City next weekend, they're going to be pissed off. The fans are going to be pissed off. I'm sure Patrick's brother's going to film a couple of TikToks while he's out there. But definitely, did you guys see that video?
I try to stay away from all
Okay.
I read a little
Mahomes
something about
siblings
Patrick
TikTok.
Mahomes'
So
brother.
his little brother was dancing before, like he tries to make it about himself, right? So he does a
Oh, yeah.
TikTok. After the game, some fans are turning around. They're like, hi, why don't you dance? Why don't you do a TikTok about taking an L? So he grabs a cold water bottle and he throws it on top of the fans and he just wets them. And they're like, we love it. We love it. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's all
weird
pissed
world.
off and everything. And I just started laughing. I'm like, well, I think his name is Jackson Mahomes or something like that. But
Before we let you go, I want to pinpoint one other thing that needs to get addressed. I know Bulaga's coming back eventually, but he's injured for right now. And I read your article on this, breaking down the position groups and how they played against Dallas, and you rated the offensive line an S for Storm Norton. And I'm a little bit worried that right tackle might be a problem in this Kansas City game because they got some pressure on Lamar. Lamar Jackson obviously is one of the most athletic people in the world. He got out of the pressure on Sunday night. Herbert's not going to have that same chances. Do you think Herbert might need a little bit more time in that pocket, or do you think this offensive line just needs a few more weeks to gel?
So it's funny. You guys are going to be like, well, what does he know? But my brother is a former offensive lineman. He played in high school. So I asked him, what is Storm doing bad? He's like, the thing is that yesterday you guys watched Micah Parsons took him apart. But the thing is that what he was waiting for was he was overstepping, waiting for Micah to try and beat him with a speed around. Well, Micah noticed that, or his coaches noticed that, and they said, bro, cut back inside. So he would come out like if he was going to rush outside, and he'd jump back inside. Well, when you're already set like an offensive lineman back, there's no way you're going to be able to get, especially with his speed.
So he was telegraphing his protection, essentially.
Exactly. And that's the thing with Storm Norton is that, how is it?
Well,
I don't know how to put
it's
this.
Chris Jones on the DN now. So you're going from rookie Micah Parsons with speed to Chris Jones, who's an absolute beast. So
but I'll tell you one thing.
Figure it out.
I'll tell you one thing. It might be a little bit easier, not easier, but the thing is, Micah's so quick and so speed. That's what he struggles against. When he played against Montez Sweat and some of these guys against some bigger guys against Washington, he didn't do as bad just because in those, like, you can win some, you can lose some. Yeah. Here, man, you're losing because you're doing the same exact thing. And Madness is doing the same thing over and over again. Well, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, and the thing is that we've asked, and today was asked, would you guys consider moving kicking Matt Filer out to right tackle and then bringing in Braden Hymas, who's a rookie from Nebraska. He's a blue collar guy that is he'll play hard, and putting him at left guard. And Brandon Staley said if it ends up getting that bad, then he didn't say it like that. He said if we're exploring everything, if we do need to make a change down the line, then we'll make it. But as of right now, Storm is our guy, which I know a lot of the fan base is not happy about. Because my mentions were destroyed. They make it seem like I'm the one. They make it seem like I'm the one
it's
making these calls.
How Twitter works, right?
Exactly.
Like
no.
But
it
sounds to me like that answer and sort of what you were getting at in that answer from Staley is that he was sort of implying we would prefer to not be in that situation.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Where we have to move this guard. It sounds like that's based on what you said. That's kind of what he was alluding.
And like Tony said, Brian Bulaga is supposed to come back, and it's like. Yeah, but he's a but. Yeah, but how long is he gonna last?
Yeah.
And that's been the problem with Brian Bulaga. It's like, and I was on a radio show here in San Diego earlier, and they asked me like, "Oh, well, Brian Bulaga is supposed to come back." I'm like, "Yeah, but it seems like a yearly like a weekly tradition where Charger fans and even the damn organization has to wonder, will Brian Bulaga play?" It's funny because last week when I put that the team had put him on IR, some fans like, I don't give it. Well, I can curse, right?
Yeah, you can curse.
Yeah, okay. He's like, I don't give a shit if he's put on IR. He did what he needed to do. He's earned his money. And I'm like, what? And I asked him what he meant. He's like, he got Corey Linsley to come to the Chargers. I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So based off of recruiting, they're like, hey, he's earned his money. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Brian
So,
Bulaga traditionally missing games in the regular season. A Green Bay fan like myself would
Yeah.
know that. Before we let you go, we had a segment earlier in the show where the three of us did a little MFK of the surprise 2-0 teams, two of which are in your division, Denver and the Raiders. Out of those two teams, which one are you more scared of to sort of take the spot that the Chargers should get getting into those playoffs? Are you more scared of Denver? Are you more scared of the Raiders?
I mean, I think Denver's defense is something else. I mean, I saw Patrick Surtain had an interception yesterday. It was a pretty nice one too. I mean, Asante Samuel Jr. for the Chargers should be getting a little bit more like love in a sense. He played really well yesterday, and he actually played very well against Washington. His only mishap was that pass interference that obviously we were told that Nasir Adderley was supposed to be back there and helping him over the top, but he wasn't. He got confused. So definitely, I think Asante Samuel Jr. has really proven. Rashawn Slater again had a very nice game yesterday. You really got no pressure from that left side, which was pretty surprising. But I think I think everybody should be a little bit nervous about Denver. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater has now all these weapons that I don't think he's ever had.
Yeah.
And he's literally passing it around. He's literally playing hot potato. Like, who wants it? Like, he's serving it up like the ice cream man. What do you want? Oh, you want it? Boom, got you. Hey, you over there, what do you want? Noah Fant, got you. Melvin Gordon, you want to run the football? Yeah, man, I got you. Boom. I mean, Melvin Gordon didn't run the ball all that well yesterday. My brother let me know about it because of his fantasy football team. He's like, I pick him up and he doesn't do anything for me. But yeah, no, Denver. I mean, the Raiders are good and they have a better quarterback. But I just think at one point Denver is going to pull, or Las Vegas is going to pull. Like, the Raiders are going to be the Raiders, and they're going to do something to where it just all unravels. Which Denver the last few years has been. I mean, it's literally been Kansas City, Denver, the Chargers, and then the Raiders kind of in that tier the last few years. So Denver definitely, and I mean, I don't know if you guys heard this. I saw somewhere that Peyton Manning is thinking about buying the Broncos, and I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, that franchise, I wonder, could they finally find a quarterback? That'd be interesting. But that's why they went with Teddy Bridgewater. They needed a guy who would not turn the ball over, not do dumb things. And unfortunately, Drew Lock has been that guy that, oh, yeah, he'll be over here flexing, doing his little dancing, but at the same time, he could throw 3 picks in a half.
There's a reason why he's not starting for them right now. And
Exactly.
Teddy Bridgewater is.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm the Chargers, or like the Chargers fan base, I guess if you're nervous about somebody, it's about Denver, just because of that defense is playing pretty. That defense is playing very hard, and that offense looks like a high priority offense so far.
Well, it's going to be an interesting few weeks and an interesting few months for this AFC West. 4 teams that are seemingly contenders at the start of this season. Again, Chargers and Chiefs, Week 3, probably the marquee matchup of Week 3. I can't wait to see it.
Who would have thought that they was the bottom seller game of the week?
I know.
Bottom seller because of both of them. Both of them were at the bottom of the AFC West.
It's going to be a blast, man. And again, the loser of this 1 and 2 is in a hole. Like, it's a pivotal matchup this early in the season.
Especially because if it is the Chargers, they have the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Do you guys know who the Raiders play this weekend?
If
not, it's fine.
Yeah, off the top of my head.
Off the top of my head, I could find out really quickly.
So,
but the Chargers, Chiefs,
they play the Dolphins. And there might not be a Tua. So if the Raiders come in to SoFi at 3-0 and you're 1-2 losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
It's
in
in Vegas too. So the Dolphins
it's in
cross
country.
The Raiders game, I'm sorry, is in Vegas. So they have to
to
travel cross country for that one. Another good opportunity for Las Vegas
to win in
front of their home fans.
If Tua was playing, I don't know if I'd give him much of a.
Poor Tua, man. But Fernando, we thank you for coming on the show, talking a little Charger game with us. We will definitely have you on in the future. Thank you for being here, and as always to the listeners, thank you for listening. Coming up next, guys, your favorite game. It's time for Gravestones. Well, thank you again, Fernando, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you, but we're about to talk about some teams that aren't the Chiefs, that aren't the Chargers, but instead are some of the teams that just aren't going to make it this year. into the NFL playoffs in the year of 2021. Yes, that's right. It's time for everybody's favorite game, the game of Gravestones. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that Gravestones is the part of the show where each of the hosts select one team to say they are not going to make the 2021 playoffs and they are going into the ground. It is time to read a eulogy off for 3 teams in the NFL. Last week we did this already, so each of us have killed a team. I killed the Giants. Schaefer the Sharp turned into a beat poet to kill the Jaguars. And Dangles, who did you kill last week?
I believe that I killed the. Oh gosh, I had it right in front of me a second ago. I have my gravestones right here.
Why would I ever expect him to remember?
It was the Lions.
Ah, yes, the Detroit Lions. So this week we go in the same order as the winner of King of the Coast. Drew's going to be leading. I'm going to be going last. And that matters because if a team is killed by a host that goes before you, you cannot kill that team that week. So I'm kind of in a pickle here if they start taking teams that I want to knock off. Good news is there's still plenty of crappy teams out there. But without any further ado, it is time to open up the doors to the chapel, step into the holy place, and it is time for Gravestones.
Boys, it's an honor to bat leadoff after week 2. And despite my excellent slam poetry last week, I'm going to go with a little more traditional eulogy in form of a popular chant originating in the Meadowlands. J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets. Zach Wilson has the Y-I-P-S, yips, yips, yips. Coming out of college, he was crowned the Mormon Manziel. Well, Mormons are supposed to abstain from caffeine, chocolate, and premarital sex. And I firmly believe on Saturday night, Zach Wilson was drinking a Mountain Dew, eating a Hershey's bar in a brothel. He threw as many picks as Coach Salah's has kids. And Robert Saleh Barr needs a drink. Many drinks. The Jets are deceased. May they rest in peace for the 2021 season.
Well, this week on Gravestones, I need not to write a eulogy. I need not a chant. I need not slam poetry, because fortunately for me, the head coach of the team that I will be killing this week wrote his own eulogy in a tweet sent from the team account earlier today. Hang in there with us. We're going to get better. The one thing about Jacksonville and the 904, go to sleep knowing there's not going to be any group working harder to get this thing flipped. Those are the words of a defeated man, a defeated team, and indeed, if there is one thing that the city of Jacksonville and Jaguar fans know best, it is working hard to flip a shitty season.
Yes.
It's not happening this year. It doesn't seem. Trevor Lawrence does not take care of the football very well. The defense isn't good. They can't move the ball down the field. The Jaguars are not making the playoffs this year, and it pains me to say it, but it is true.
Oh, today is a sad day. For it is a day that we say goodbye to a man that is beloved by the community, adored by the fans, and really a favorite of the 3 hosts of this podcast. So if you would join me now in taking your grande black coffee with 2 shots of espresso in it and pouring a little bit out into the ground for the rest of us. It is time to say goodbye to the man Drew calls Campbell and the man we know as Campbell. For the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, Jamal Williams, my boy, on your rebound. DJ Swift and that defense of just nobodies. You're not making the playoffs this year. You gave it a hell of a first half on Monday night in week 2. But by week 3, that steam's going to run a little bit low. And those pump-up speeches aren't going to hit home like they used to. Sorry, Detroit. It is on to another rebuilding year. And it is time to go to sleep. R.I.P. And that is the end of Gravestones. And that is it for week 3 recap show. It's the Tuesday show. There's a lot going on in the world of the West Coast Gamblers. I'm getting confused on the days. Oh, look at that. Zach Wilson just threw another interception to the New England defense.
You know, we didn't have time in Gravestones. I wanted to mention this. I meant to earlier. I saw this great stat from the ESPN's Jets reporter, Rich Simony, earlier today. Zach Wilson's the 4th rookie top 5 pick with 0 pass touchdowns and 4 or more picks in a game in the last 20 seasons. The last 3 quarterbacks to do it were all Jets. Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez were the other 2. Alex Smith did it in 2005. If that doesn't say something about the Jets quarterbacks and who they draft, I just don't know what does. But I loved that. I thought that was awesome and sad.
The Mormon Manziel. What could go wrong? Who gave him that nickname, by the way? That's the worst draft nickname ever. The Mormon Manziel.
I'll tell you one thing. He ain't going to be around for a while. But that's it for our show today. For Schaefer the Sharp, Drew Schaefer Crookston, from Matthew Dangles, D'Angelo Antonio. My name is Tony Cavallo, a.k.a. Tony Squares. Again, this is the show that went 15-6 in week 2. Tell your friend, tell your mom, tell your dad. Listen to us coming Thursday because we are hitting our bets and making you money. Making moms money. We are the West Coast Gamblers. And as always, thank you for listening.